Akyanati mirandhasya jnana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ya Kundendo Tushadhara Dvavala Ya Shubhravastra Vita Ya Vina Varadanda Mandita Kara Ya Shveta Padmasana Ya Brahma Chuta Shankara Prabhitivi Devye Sada Vandita Samam Patu Sarasvati Bhagavati Buddhi Pradam Sharade Buddhi Pradam Sharade. Jai Gurudev, good morning for those who are watching this in the morning. Somebody in the live stream is already in the afternoon. Happy Babaji Day. Today in Bhakti Marga, we celebrate the day of our dear Param Guru Mahavatar Babaji. And I'm quite sure you guys are all familiar with why Guruji chose this day. Guruji said that's the day where Mahavatar Babaji promised to stay on earth, guiding all the spiritual seekers into the ultimate realization. So that's what we celebrate today. You're going to see other organizations having other Babaji days because they are celebrating according to other happenings of Babaji's appearance on earth. Let's say it like this. And yeah, nobody knows when Mahavatar Babaji was born, so people take different things that have happened in order to celebrate his auspicious presence on planet Earth. Mahavatar Babaji is an amazing and mystical figure. Everybody knows, very close to our Guruji, very, very close. And yeah, I'm very happy to be sharing some experiences and whatever knowledge I can give with everyone today. If everything goes well, in the end, I think we could open for questions. Let's see how it goes, okay? For the people who are here in the room. I hope you guys are enjoying the retreat and practicing lots of Kriya. You did your Kriya in this morning before coming here? That's what we expect for this group. At 3 o'clock? Okay, the name of this talk today, of this lecture, is Meditation is Absorption, as you all see here in this weird cover. I look redder than my clothes itself in the picture. The absorption that Guruji is talking about, that he's going to mention again and again throughout his talks, is the absorption on the divine inside of us. Is that absorption that happens when we understand what is the soul, what is the Atma. This is the self-realization, understanding the self. So we understand what is our Atma, so that relationship to the divine reveals itself, and then we realize the divine, that is then God realization. So that absorption we can easily link with the teachings of Shri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So I have two things that I'm going to use to move through this talk today. Once is the Gita itself and how the Gita supports our Atma Kriya Yoga, the gift of Guruji and Mahavatar Babaji to us, so that we can finally be absorbed in the divine and know ourself, know our Atma. And the other thing that I'm going to use throughout the talk is actually a specific, let's say, transcription of Guruji's satsang on Babaji Day of 2020. Because when I was asked to give this lecture, I was thinking where I can find nice sources. And of course, I approached Padmavati from Sri Pitanilayam. And she straight away told me, I know the exact content that you need. And then she sent me this talk from Guruji in 2020 on Babaji Day, where you can for sure go back on YouTube and listen to, where Guruji actually links Atma Kriya Yoga with the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. And he's always talking about the soul. What is the soul and what is the aim of Atma Kriya Yoga? But let's start from the beginning. How did everything start? What is Atma Kriya Yoga? So we know that when Krishna left his physical body, that the Lord himself manifested as Mahavatar Babaji. Guruji says he's an incarnation of Mahavishnu. That's Guruji's words. So he appeared on planet Earth together with Kali Yuga, we can say. But he chose to remain silent, to remain secret, as he still is, even though more and more we are allowed to talk about him and to spread his image and his wisdom and the knowledge about him. So, Guruji in this satsang in 2020, he made it very clear. Babaji was not known to the public at all until many, many years ago, Lahiri Mahashaya, the great saint, talked about him. And then Lahiri Mahashaya teach this to Sri Yukteswaraji, who was the guru of Paramahamsa Yogananda. So this is some people from the Kriya tradition of Mahavatar Babaji, and they are not linked with our Sampradaya. As you guys know, we are from a Vaishnava Sampradaya. So Guruji was initiated in the Sri Sampradaya, and then he created the Hari Bhakta Sampradaya. So we are clearly Vaishnavas. But Guruji also said many times that Babaji, he's behind the gurus and masters, mainly the Satgurus, and he's not linked to Sampradayas. He doesn't care. So he has disciples in different lineages. Okay? So the lineages then, in their tradition, they will be linked to some Sampradaya. And Babaji guided Guruji to be a Vaishnava in this life, as Guruji for sure is mostly in his lives, being who he is. So that's how everything started. Lahiri Mahashaya started teaching to his disciples about his guru, who was Mahavatar Babaji, who appeared to him, and you all know the story. If you read that old, very nice book that actually changed my life when I was 15, the autobiography of a yogi. And then Sri Yukteswar and Paramahamsa Yogananda. And then Yogananda, in his book, he brought it to the West. And Guruji made it very clear. The knowledge about the existence of Mahavatar Babaji spread in the West as well as in India when Yogananda spread it. Also in India, he was not known back then. So that's how everything came to be, that we got to know about that Kriya, how Kriya got revived to the human beings in a little bit more public way, let's say, step by step. So when it comes to Guruji, Paramahamsa Vishwananda, you see Babaji even manifest a new picture. Guruji told the story on online satsangs, you can see it, and we can use things like YouTube and internet and talk about him. So it becomes much more intense. And that's how Babaji made himself known to the world. About the Kriyas, Guruji said very clearly as well. To us, Babaji gave the Kriya of Bhakti. What does it even mean? The Kriya of Bhakti, it means that everything that we practice supports and make us understand and realize our relationship to God and develop real, sincere devotion to God. All the techniques, they purify us for us to understand the power of God and the power of God's name. We are not doing it like, let's say, the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali that guides you step by step until self-realization, until the first kind of samadhi. Guruji knows that with bhakti, together with kriya, you purify yourself to that state of knowing what your soul is, and then from that state, together with bhakti, the grace of the Lord will come down so that you can actually know who God is. Not only what the soul is, but who God is himself, with his qualities, with his attributes, not only a feeling in the heart, but even beyond that. That feeling is already everything. Guruji, you're going to see throughout this talk, that feeling is what guides us, and that feeling is very, very important. But our Kriya is the Kriya of Bhakti, because everything that we do, as we know, is connected to the Navada Bhakti, to the 9 forms of Bhakti. Every technique is purifying us for us to attain that gift of sincere devotion. And when we have sincere devotion, we don't need to climb the stairs to Bhagavan, because he himself comes down. And that's what we see in the life of the saints. So that's the aim, to build this relationship. Because you're going to see that to different masters, Bhavatar Babaji has given different kriyas, variations of kriyas. There are things that are similar and things that are different. It's very specific. For Paramahamsa Vishwananda's disciples, we have the kriya that gives bhakti, where with your sweetness, with your devotion, the Lord is not going to resist. He will have to come down to you. That's what we are doing. That's the beauty of bhakti. You're not relying on your own effort. You're not even relying on how good you can do the main kriya or on how good you can do a pranayama. You do your best, but you know that the grace comes from God, not from the quality, the outside quality of you doing your technique, but from the sincerity, from the devotion that we are using in our practice. That's the secret of that. So, Guruji himself said, the main message of the Bhagavad Gita is that inner transformation about knowing who you are. So that's why that knowledge is very linked with the practice of Atma Kriya, because Atma Kriya is going to make you know who you are. It's going to develop this feeling. So that's the aim. When you have the relationship with the divine, we know clearly what is our aim. So what is the aim of Atma Kriya Yoga? First, you set the right intention. That's very important. Why are you practicing Kriya Yoga? Atma Kriya Yoga. What is the intention? When you sit there every day or 2 times a day, what is the intention behind your practice? It's just to calm down, to release the tension from your muscles, or is to become a great yogi and develop siddhis and develop yogic superpowers? I mean, when I was a teenager, I did have this strongly in my mind. When I'm going to start flying around. I was living in the 12th floor. Like when I'm going to just come out of the window. I was doing another Kriya back then, not. I got initiated in my first Kriya, let's say in 2006, and I never stopped for a day until today. But I got initiated in Guruji's Kriya in the end of 2011. So that's, Kriya has been actually guiding me throughout my life. And I remember when I just came to Germany, trying to be a student, to make the Aufnahmeprüfungen, the exams, to get into the university. It was really hard for me. I almost didn't have money. I was sharing an apartment with crazy people. And what gave me the center of life was Kriya. And somehow in my heart, it was linked with devotion. But it was not said always like this. When I received Guruji's Kriya, Atma Kriya Yoga, I understand the depth of that devotion that was guiding me in my heart the whole time. That was not actually taught to me. But throughout all this, before I met my Sadhguru in person, the fact that I have a technique to do every day that would make me feel somehow close to God and calm my mind, gave me the security to go through everything in life. To I don't want to go into details of personal life, but we can do one day in a more private satsang. But we can go through the difficulties of life when we develop this feeling of what we are and what is our relationship to God. And that's the aim of Atma Kriya. We set the right intention of loving Him, of spending time with Him, with the Supreme Lord. With her, if you want, with Kriya Devi, with Lakshmi Devi. But that's the intention first. That's the most beautiful intention I believe we can have. When we're sitting to practice our Kriya, we are reserving our time to be close to Him. And that's why this moment is so sacred. Huh? Then we do the practices the best we can, not forgetting the devotion, not forgetting to pour as much love as we can in each technique of our kriyas. And this purification, this process, Guruji says, we can say that the Atma, that we are the Atma. We know, theoretically I read in that books, we are the Atma. But without that feeling, that doesn't mean anything. And the practice is going to bring that feeling to us. That something exists in this box here, in this place. This place is not empty anymore. Suddenly there's a warmth in here. Have you ever practiced it after Kriya? Something is warm in that region. And it's exactly in the middle. It's not on the left side where the physical heart is. You can feel this. It's concrete. So you feel this warmth, you have this feeling. In Atma Kriya is based on that feeling. That feeling of the presence of God, of practicing the presence of God when you sit and do your techniques. Throughout practicing the techniques, what's going to happen is we're going to be freed step by step from pride and ego. That's what Guruji said. And when we free ourselves from pride and ego, what stays is the self. Because it means we remove the layers of false identity. We remove all the ignorance when pride and ego go away. And what stays is the self, is the Atma. But of course, it's very easy to say, probably everybody's thinking, okay, I'm doing Kriya for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and I still have pride and still have ego. One thing for sure, you have in a different level than you had when you started. And second, the expectation doesn't help at all. And we have to go through the tests of life. We do our Kriya, we follow Guruji's advices, and then we go back to work, we go to our lives, and then when some little issue, some little challenge happens outside, instead of us being angry of the person that destroyed our peace, we should actually see that that was the Lord testing our inner peace. And if we stay strong in that consciousness that Kriya itself means, the word Kriya, is that consciousness, that active consciousness of wanting to be with the Lord. If we stay there, if we pass the little tests that the Lord is giving us day by day, we're going to go deeper in that feeling. And we're going to consciously understand that everything that God is giving us in life is a constant exercise for us to free ourselves from pride and ego. We have the daily choice. I want to attach and hold on, or I want to get rid of it. And we practice our Kriya so we can maintain this consciousness throughout our life. Because Kriya is not only the meditation in the morning and in the evening, but is that consciousness and that feeling that stays throughout the day, isn't it? So that feeling has to stay. That's the mystery of Atma Kriya. The Atma is a mystery. Guruji told me many times, like, you have to see the Atma. You have to know what the Atma is. He told me, meditate like this. Very nice. I didn't see it. I'm very curious to see how it looks like. But the more we practice, we do develop more feeling. And this feeling is magical. And you should trust your feelings in a grounded way. Because these are the signs that the Lord is giving you, that God is giving you, that you are moving, that He is with you. So let's say we got freed from pride and ego. We understand that the aim of the practice is not I and mine, is God Himself. And then we attain that Guruji and Mahavata Babaji wants, to know the Atma. Guruji said in his talk in 2020, that talk that I mentioned in the beginning, Guruji said, that is what Babaji wants, that people elevate themselves beyond their ego, to be free. So if you don't elevate beyond that ego and pride, you'll never be free. That freedom of mind and spirit is not going to happen if we attach ourselves to that pride and ego. It means if we attach ourselves to the current idea of who we are, we have to transform. We have to lose the fear of transforming, of changing. We cannot get better if we don't change. We have to accept change. That's a simple, beautiful secret of spiritual life. Change has to be welcome. And when we attain that, we're going to become what Babaji and Guruji want from us. And then I have this interesting slide here. It's not me saying, it's Guruji saying. He said, you should become a yogi. A yogi is a saint. The yogi that Bhagavan Krishna talks in the Bhagavad Gita is the person who is absorbed in divine consciousness. That's the yogi of the Bhagavad Gita. That is a saint. And Guruji is telling us, become a yogi. He's not saying try the best, it's nice, then go back to your job and have fun. What Guruji expects from us, it's really deep. It just reminded me of a talk that a devotee of Guruji gave in a darshan recently. Guruji told this specific person, I'm going to give you lots of tests in life. Your life's going to be very difficult for some time. And the person said, okay, Guruji, is that the moment where I'm supposed to smile? Guruji didn't give any answer. And then her life transformed, and she went through really, really, really many issues. And after lots of difficulties, when things kind of got back to some normality, Guruji went to her and said, all this time, not even once, you blamed me for whatever happened for you. Guruji was basically praising the devotee, saying, all the bad things that happened to you, you didn't have one thought of blaming me. Even though Guruji said, I'm going to make your life difficult because I have to test you now. But then Guruji said, but you still thought, why is this happening to me? So you didn't have ultimate trust yet on me. So not to blame him, to accept was not enough. What Guruji wants from us is not only to be good devotees. It's not only to be good yogis. You look at the saints here on the wall, that's what Guruji wants from you. If it's not that, he's not going to be satisfied with what you achieve. That's why Guruji is always talking about the saints. We have to read about the life of the saints, because they inspire us and they understand what life actually is. It's not about having a difficult or an easy life, but it's about, with the grace of the Guru and faith in God, to go through life without shaking. That's what we are here to become. Guruji is very clear. A yogi is not just someone who sits in the cave. The yogi is absorbed in divine consciousness, wherever he is. We always talk about the saints, Guruji says, full of bhakti, and they are great yogis. Bhakti itself makes the person a yogi. Guruji says, when the mind wants to attain a state, it becomes restless. So it's not about the mind wanting to attain that state. When the mind says, I want to become thoughtless, I want to be pure. When the mind wants to attain a state, it becomes restless. That's interesting. Even if it is a yogic state, if the mind wants to attain peace, the mind is restless. If the mind wants to attain love, the mind is restless, because it's not about the mind. That's the sweetness of bhakti, of the Atma itself. There's no question of which state you want to achieve in bhakti, because in bhakti, it's not about you, it's about God. You are thinking about Him. You want to serve Him. You want to love Him more and more. You want to let Him use you for whatever He wants in His life. It's not about the mind wanting to be something. It's about diving in bhakti and letting that sweetness of God overflow in your life. And then God is going to give you all these states naturally, whatever He wants. And you will not care, because what you want is God, not that state or this state. You read in the life of King Rishabhadeva on the Srimad Bhagavatam, great saint, one of the most important avatars of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Avadut is crazy for God. The Siddhis and all the yogic powers want to come to him, and he said no. In the Bhagavatam it says, they even took a human form and say, hello, I'm that Siddhi. Please accept me. He said, no, I don't want you. And Guruji said, but he had all the Siddhis inside of him. He just didn't use them because he didn't care. Everything he wanted was Bhagavan himself, not any Siddhi. But the more he would concentrate on God instead of these powers, the more the Lord would give him gifts. That's how it works. The more you don't want, the more you detach and you want only God. Then the more you're going to have the free hands to receive gifts from the Lord. That's actually, there was this French monk from the 16th century, I believe, or Brother Lawrence. He said the same. He was saying, I was always practicing the presence of God. His technique was to be always just thinking about God. He didn't have any technique. He was just thinking about God. And he was writing letters to the bishops, to the priests, and he was like a poor, disabled monk, a poor monk cleaning the floor. And he was writing letters to the bishops and to the archbishops, suggesting them the spiritual practice that he does, because he saw that they didn't have the realization that he was receiving from the Lord. And he was not doing big prayers. Everything he was doing was a simple technique called the presence of God. That's how he called it. Think of God the most you can throughout the day. That's all. As a technique. Always coming back to it. And he said, the most I do it, the more I do it, the more God gives me gifts. And then I deny the gifts because I don't want the gifts, I want him. And then the Lord gives me a bigger gift. And then I deny the gift because I don't want the gift, I want him. And then the Lord gives me a bigger gift. And it was his life. So that's what Guruji wants from us, not to want any of his gifts. Sometimes the Lord, Guruji, God is going to give us a very nice gift, and he's actually observing us. So, this devotee, I'm giving him now a great, great gift. From now on, will he prefer more the gift or me? No? I mean, I can see this in my life many times. Like I receive a great gift, but if I go fully for that, I'll have less time for the Lord himself. For example, it happens before in my old professional life. And the Lord wants to know if he is our priority. It doesn't mean that everybody has to become a monk, not at all. It's the internal priority. It's the aim, the consciousness. And when you are in this consciousness, you become that saint, that yogi that Guruji is talking about, that the saints which are in the slide and in the wall here, exactly the same picture. That's not here in my script, but I was reading about the life of another saint. Interesting, this saint is also not a Hindu saint, not an Indian saint, he's a Greek. He was living in his monastery, and he didn't want to marry or to do anything, he just wanted to be a monk. Then, something crazy happened, because his family, in another side, in another part of the island where they used to live, his family was fighting with another family. Then this man came one night in the monastery and said, I want to confess. And this guy was nervous. He said, I just killed somebody. And the saint, doing the confession, heard the guy saying that he killed somebody. And the person that he killed was his own brother, the brother of the saint. The saint didn't flinch. He gave him, the guy said, I needed to help me. The police is coming, I'm going to go to jail, I'm going to be killed, and this and that. The saint forgave. As a priest, he could, according to his position and to his tradition, he could forgive the sins. Not something that we believe, but there's a beautiful meaning in it. So he could forgive the sins of that person, and he even organized money in a boat for the guy to run away. So he could forgive in a second the guy who killed his own brother. He thought, my brother is already dead. But this guy can still see God in his life. And the saint understand what changed somebody is not words or punishment, but the example, the experience, the changing experience, the transformative experience that we have with another saint. Like when we meet Guruji, we transform, we change automatically. But also when we meet great devotees and we hear about their lives, this changes us. This actually really inspires us. So that's what Guruji wants from us, to become a yogi, to become a saint. Guruji, of course, loves to mention Saint Mirabai. So he said, Mirabai, you all know his story for sure. She's even painted on the back of the temple here, beautifully with Guruji and Giridhar Gopal. Mirabai wasn't concerned about in what state she is. Not at all. What was Mirabai only concerned? Giridhari. That was everything she wanted, everything she needed, everything she thought of. And Guruji said, in that state that where she was, that's Guruji's words, that state of Mirabai, of being only concerned with Giridhar Gopal, that is the ultimate of all kriyas. Because that's the real surrender, that Atma Nivedan Bhakti. Ultimate surrender is the ultimate state of all kriyas, where you forget about yourself and only God exists in your life. So, are we ready to try a bit harder to become that, what Guruji wants from us? But Guruji, I'm not a monk in the ashram. It's okay, just go read the saints' lives. Many of them were not monks. Tukaram was not a monk, he was married. 2 marriages even. Saint Namdev was not a monk. Mirabai, she left the husband because the husband didn't really like her devotion, but she never became a nun. She just went out and sang. It's not about that initiation, that position, but put your effort into becoming that Guruji wants us to be. It doesn't mean that you have to go dancing like a crazy person in the streets. It's going to be a secret in your heart. And then whatever happens outside happens. Maybe you dance one day. So, let's go a bit more specific now in what the Bhagavad Gita itself says to our Kriya. Why I say to our Kriya? Because our Kriya is based on Navada Bhakti, on the 9 aspects of Bhakti. So, I have here a beautiful picture of Narada Muni, because we all know that Narada Muni gave the knowledge of the 9 forms of Bhakti to the mother of Prahlad Maharaj. And then, through the mother, Prahlad, inside of the belly, he heard and he got this knowledge of the Navada Bhakti. That's in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. So when we practice our kriyas, we start with I cannot go into details actually, but we have the Shravana Bhakti, which is the first in the usual list that we find of the 9 forms of Bhakti, which is listening, which normally we easily, when we are teaching or learning or practicing, we know that it's listening to satsangs, listening to the stories of the Lord, listening to kirtan, listening to the God's name, because God's name and God is the same, is one and the same. There's actual no difference between God and His name. So you listen to His name, you have Him. That's something that we cannot forget. But it's more than that. Listening is also obedience and the humility of bowing down to the feet of the Master. So listen this 2 amazing verses of the Bhagavad Gita. 434, very famous, is when he says we all should have a guru. Krishna says, one should approach a spiritual master with submission, extensive inquiry and service. Such realized souls can instruct you, for they have seen the truth. So if you don't have the obedience, you're never going to be instructed. The guru doesn't teach, doesn't instruct somebody who's not ready to listen. I can see this on Guruji so often. How Guruji behaves differently with the people who are actually wanting to listen. When the person already has something fixed in their mind, Guruji will most probably just say what the person already has in their mind, because the person is going to do that anyway. But when the person is really ready to listen and to change, and then the magic happens, and then Guruji opens up and say beautiful secret things that normally he doesn't say. So most probably, all of us here have some experience like this in our interactions with Guruji, didn't we? How Guruji changes according to our sincerity, how he reveals things according to how open we are to listen to his words. Listening, Shravana. Focusing your mind on me, by my grace, you shall overcome all obstacles, he says on the last chapter. That's a very tough verse. If, however, out of pride, you do not listen to me, you will be ruined. Krishna makes it very clear. But he waited lots of time to reveal this. To be so direct to Arjuna, it took 600 and something verses. In the beginning, he doesn't say that harsh. But after Arjuna even saw the cosmic form of the Lord, after Arjuna was instructed in all kinds of yoga, after Arjuna was instructed about the qualities of the devas and the asuras, about the gunas, and then after he gave all the knowledge, he says, look, you have to listen to me. Otherwise, your life will not be any good. Listening. That's a tough one. Did you guys remember this verse? So, if you focus your mind on the Lord, you will overcome all obstacles. Not because of your effort, but because of His grace. So concentrate on that first half. It is His grace that's going to make you overcome all obstacles. You just focus on Him. But don't let pride take you away from Him. Don't let pride make you do something that's not what the Guru and the Lord is telling you. The Lord is telling us via the Bhagavad Gita, The Guru is telling us via his satsangs, via his books, or directly. Because we are so lucky that we have the best Satguru of all the universes here with us in his physical presence. Not many people can have this luck. Let's move on. When you go deeper in your Kriya, you have this beautiful technique that Guruji likes very much, and he did actually, which is connected to Kirtana Bhakti. And Kirtana Bhakti is also easily connected to the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 10. Krishna says, with their minds focused on me and their lives centered upon me, they inspire one another. By always speaking of my glory, they derive bliss and contentment. Krishna was talking here about these yogis, these saints that he wants us to become. So, why I connected this to Kirtana? Because when we are always singing the name of God, or talking about the Lord, this joy, this bliss and contentment happens inside of us. And that's one of the most sweet things about Kirtana Bhakti, is that bliss that the yogis need thousands and thousands of years of practice to attain, with Kirtana, you're gonna have that glimpse. It's gonna come in a second, and you're gonna understand, wow, in that second I felt something so blissful that I didn't feel in meditation yet. That's the grace of Kirtana Bhakti. But in Kriya techniques, it gives you the purity to feel this Kirtana Bhakti and to feel the bliss through that. So, by speaking of the Lord, focusing on the Lord, you're gonna attain bliss and contentment. Let's go a bit faster. Smarana Bhakti. Remembrance. That's one of the most beautiful verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Focus your mind on me, be devoted to me, offer worship to me, bow down to me. Engage in your mind in this way, holding me as the supreme goal, you will surely come to me. So basically, let's simplify it, is what Brother Lawrence said before when I was mentioned. Simplifying it. If you think of me as much as you can, you will come to me. Is that amazing and simple? Krishna is saying, think of me the most as you can. Engage your mind with me. Think of me the most as you can. Remember me. And then you will surely come to me. He gave us the insurance. It's super beautiful. Pada Seva Bhakti. Seva to the feet, to the lotus feet. It's considered that service directly to God's feet or to the Guru's feet. It says here, but those, on the chapter 7, but those who perform virtuous deeds, whose sins have ceased, are freed from illusion of the pairs of opposites. They worship me steadfast in their determination. Because Guruji says our focus should be on the feet of God. Yeah? We should have the image of the feet of God. Everything is in the feet of the Lord. And also it derives humility to us. So when we worship the feet, that's Pada Seva Bhakti, the service and the worship to the feet, we cleanse our sins. And we get freed from illusion. By the way, did you watch the talk that Guruji gave in Shri Vitala Dham some months ago, when he was, I think, in the end of the Holy Lake Festival? It was live streamed. And he said something amazing about that technique that Krishna gives to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, that all the masters, the Kriya masters normally say throughout the word, that in that moment, Krishna gave Kriya to Arjuna. But the way that is spoken in the Gita is very simple. Yeah? He said, close your eyes, or half close your eyes, focus on the tip of your nose. And basically that's it, in the Gita. And Guruji was kind of funningly asking people, have you ever practiced that? And I was not sure myself, is he making fun of those who practice it, or he's telling people to practice what is written there? And then he said, you need a deeper understanding of this. When he says you should move your eyes down to the direction of the tip of your nose, Guruji said, he's asking you to look 45 degrees down so you can look at the feet of the master. So that's the angle. He is asking you to look down, to focus on the feet. That's the beautiful of that verse. The beauty of that verse. I was so amazed when Guruji said that. Beyond the technique, the pranayama, where's your eyes at? Look down at his feet. That's where everything starts and ends. Pada Seva Bhakti. Next one, Archana Bhakti, which is worship. We can easily connect Archana Bhakti to the Gita as well, using Guruji's favorite verse from Guruji's favorite chapter. And as we all know, worship is in the outside, like puja, yajna, But in the Kriya, we connected to the pranayama because we are doing basically the inside worship, the inside paraphernalia of worship. You're counting the breath and all these techniques, which keep the mind busy with the Lord. So in Archana Bhakti, Krishna says, whoever offers to me with devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or some water, patram pushpam, that verse, I accept this offering made with devotion by one who is pure of heart. So Krishna makes clear the worship. He accepts the worship which is fancy. Is Krishna saying here that he prefers the worship of the silver plate, of the dirty plate? Thus, is Krishna saying here prefers the worship where the mantras in Sanskrit are perfect, or if the person by ignorance cannot pronounce the Sanskrit? Is Krishna saying that here? What's the kind of worship that he accepts? The one made with devotion, with a pure heart. And do you think this is different in our Kriya practice? Of course, we should be sincere and try to practice everything properly, because we humbly trying to do our best. But understand what the Lord accepts and what attracts the Lord to us. It's not the perfection of our technique, but our devotion, the purity of our hearts in that technique. It's the love that we put in the technique. Vandana Bhakti. This is a twin verse to the one that we said before, 934, but the end is similar because the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna has changed throughout the Gita, of course, throughout that conversation just before the war, the Mahabharata war started. So now he basically repeats the same in the last chapter because he's concluding what is important. And he makes a little variation in the end. He says, Vandan Bhakti, which is the physical prostration, Vandan. He says, fix your mind on me, be devoted to me, worship me. And then he says, bow down to me. So also use your physical body. Yeah? Bow down before me, and you shall come to me. And then he says something interesting. He says, I promise you this for certain, for you are dear to me. So now there is a new element to it. You will come to me, Krishna says, when you fix your mind, when you bow down, when you perform the vandanam, worship. And he promises. But it's not because fixing your mind, not because the devotion, not because the bowing down again. It's because you became dear to him. Isn't it sweet? That's the power of bhakti. We are not using bhakti to climb up the ladders and trying to knock at Vaikuntha doors. I think if you try to go by yourself, there are too many steps in this ladder. But by the sweetness of bhakti and devotion, you become dear to God. Your presence is dear to him, just like you want his presence. So the aim of the techniques is to become dear to God. How do we become dear to God? We accept transformation. We change. And we become what Guruji asked us to become, which is a saint, a yogi. Be an honest, sincere devotee. Become a yogi, a saint. Become dear to him. Then, clearly, you will go to him. It's a lot of words, a lot of techniques, a lot of terms, but it is actually so simple. No? We have to do so many things just to purify our hearts. It comes down to it. But it's important to know, to understand via Guruji's teachings, who is God, what is God, and what is Guruji himself. So we understand who is this most amazing, beautiful, supreme personality that we want. Because we know in our hearts that we want him, we want something. But Guruji actually make us know clearly, oh, that's actually what I want. That's how it looks like. Isn't it? In our life, before getting to know Guruji, we knew that we wanted something, but it was not that clear. At least that's my experience. I want God, but I could not have any close conversation about God. I have no knowledge about God. Via Ramanujacharya, Guruji, we understand who is God. And then we understand with whom we want to build a relationship and to whom we want to become dear. And that's the gift of the techniques of Atma Kriya Yoga, that this consciousness awakens from inside. That's the gift of Mahavatar Babaji. Dasya Bhakti, which is service in general, service, seeing God everywhere, serving in every attitude. So I found a beautiful verse where the word service is also there on chapter 12 on Bhakti Yoga, the smallest chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He says, but if you are unable to practice this yoga, because Krishna was saying complicated things to Arjuna, and then he calms Arjuna down and says, but if you are unable to practice this yoga, then just devote yourself to serving me. That's enough. For even by dedication, your actions to me, you will attain perfection. Again, because it's not about the action, it's about the love inside of that action, the consciousness in that action. So you could not do Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Then whatever you do it for me. That's what we understand inside of Dasya. When I see somebody in the lobby that cannot carry his own luggage, I quickly should run to help the person carrying the luggage up to the room. Just because I want to please that person, not because I know that God is inside of that person. Antaryami is inside of everyone. Yes, you want the person to be happy, but that consciousness that God is in everything is what's going to make us attain that perfection and going to really make us always ready to serve. That's what Guruji has said. We should be able to see. You know the story of Saint Namdev, Saint Namdev? Yeah, how Namdev received his guru via Dyaneshwara's grace. Saint Namdev was seeing Vithala every day. You know? Namdev would go to the temple, he's here, and he would go to the temple and see Saint Namdev and and see Vithala and talk to Vithala. But then the other saints, Dyaneshwara, Gaurakumbha, Dyaneshwara's brothers, sister, and they said, look, Namdev is a great saint, he has darshan of Vithala, but he still doesn't have a guru. You need the guru. He still needs the guru to attain a higher state, Saint Namdev, even though he has the darshan of Vithala. So they made this plot with Gaurakumbha, who was a potter. So he took a clay pot, and the yogis were all sitting on the floor. So Gaurakumbha was like, he said, oh, I know that somebody here in this assembly is not baked perfectly, is not fully baked. He was making an analogy with the saints and the clay pot, like a great saint in a baked pot. Like the good saint is that perfectly baked pot, which is like enough in the heat. And he said there was someone here who has not been baked enough. So he goes with this pot and he goes hitting the heads of the people, of the yogis. And everything was organized for Saint Namdev. And then when he came to Saint Namdev, he banged it stronger. Boom. And Namdev, what are you doing to me? And he got so offended. So in that, Dhyaneshwar Guru Kumbhar and said, you know why you got offended? Because you are not yet a well-baked pot. You need more baking. And you know why you are not? Because you don't have a guru. But I see Vithala every time. I said, yeah, and then go talk to Vithala. So Namdev ran in tears, offended, to the temple. He said, Vithala, I see you every day, I talk to you, and they are saying that I need a guru. And Vithala looked at him and said, yes, you need a guru. Krishna himself said. And then he said, who is the guru, and this and that. And you know how? Now connecting to the Dasya. That's what I wanted to come, where I wanted to arrive. The training of Namdev with his guru finished when a beautiful episode happened, where Namdev was eating some Indian bread, some chapati, nam, don't know what bread they were eating. You know, this very nice Indian fresh breads. He had his, and they have some butter, some makhan on the side. So he was eating his bread, and a dog came and stole some of his breads. And his guru was close by. And his guru was observing Namdev's reaction. So Namdev stood up and was running behind the dog. You know what he was saying? He was saying, Vittal, Vittal, you forgot the butter. Because he saw Vittal inside of the dog. And then the guru said, your training is finished. Now you know that Krishna is not only the deity, Krishna is everywhere. He's inside of everyone. So he was serving the dog, Dasya Bhakti. It's a sweet story. It was also not in the script. It's also always like this. Now, whatever you plan is never that good. Sakya Bhakti, the personal relationship to the Supreme Lord. That's 2 verses together. So this verse is a bit harsh also. But you have to understand how we came here, like in the life of between Arjuna and Krishna. So the verse says, so what happened? Arjuna just had the vision of the Vishwarupa. He saw Krishna as the Supreme Lord, and what he saw was beyond good and evil. He saw all the asuras and all the devas. He saw everything, all the universes. His mind was melting. And then after this vision, he was crying, and he said this to Krishna. He said, either through negligence or affection, I was unaware of your majesty. Thinking of you as a friend, I spoke rashly and addressed you, saying, O Krishna, O Yadava, O friend, whatever disrespect I have shown you, while joking, playing, resting, while we were sitting or eating together, while alone or in the presence of others, I beg your forgiveness, for you are beyond understanding. So Sakya Bhakti is something great, of course. And here he's apologizing because he saw Krishna as a friend. The thing is that he's apologizing for the moments when he saw Krishna only as a friend. They knew, the Pandavas always knew that Krishna was the Lord. But you get used to it, you get spoiled. Yeah? Guruji is a magical being in the best sense of this word. Guruji is a mystical guru, saint. We all know he's not human. But quickly, we can forget. Once my friend Pritu Paramjyoti asked Guruji, Guruji, do you prefer the person who is always close to you or the person who is always talking about you? And then Guruji said, I prefer the person who is always preaching and talking about me than the one who is close to me. You know why? Because the one who is always talking about me never forget my glories. Never forget who I am. That's his words. Never forget who I am. So, Arjuna already attained that personal relationship to Bhagavan himself. You see, Namdev also attained the personal relationship to Vithal, also Janabai, also Tukaram. And that's an ultimate state of devotion. But you have to understand that Krishna and Arjuna, they have gone a long way until the Mahabharata and until that verse. And even though you theoretically know that Guruji is whoever you think he is, a supreme being, the most amazing being, together with Babaji, because I asked Guruji already, Guruji, who is higher, you or Babaji? I didn't ask that directly, I was ashamed. And then I forgot the question. And then he said, ask your question. I said, Guruji, I forgot my question. And then he said, Babaji, because he knew my question in my mind. But I forgot. And then I said, oh, because you said like that you come from this place and that place, and if you are so high, why do you need a guru, Babaji? Because I wanted to ask, who is higher, you or Babaji? You know what Guruji answered me? He said, for you to know that makes no difference. Like this, it makes no difference for us to try to understand who is higher, because they are both a manifestation of the same being. Just like Rishi Aaradhaka was merged in the consciousness of Bhagavan, he was himself incarnation of Bhagavan. So I have direct experiences, so I'm not afraid of saying that. I'm not going to share all the experiences in a live stream on YouTube, but the divinity of Guruji is real and Mahavatar Babaji is real. So that I can stand here with confidence and tell everyone, and they can become very concrete to you. So we just trust Guruji's words and dive into Sakya Bhakti and become and have a personal relationship to him. Just never forget that he is the ultimate reality. And then we're gonna have that surrender that we are looking for. And that surrender is Atma Nivedana Bhakti. That is connected to the grace of the gurus, of the Parampara, the grace of Mahavatar Babaji, and all the gurus from all the lineages, mainly the two lineages which Guruji are connected, the Kriya lineage and the Vaishnava lineage. Atma Nivedana Bhakti is either the high state of Samadhi or also the ultimate state of surrender, is one and the same. And for that we need to use our most important verse. 1,000 years ago, Ramanujacharya said that's the most important verse of the Bhagavad Gita. After you learn everything, after we have all the knowledge of the yogas, of who Krishna is, of what we have to do to attain that consciousness, of what is right, of what is wrong. After you know everything, and then Krishna put the cherry on the top of the cake. He says, abandoning all dharmas, surrender to me alone. I will take care of all your sins, of everything. I will liberate you. Have no fear. So now that you know everything, Krishna is basically telling to Arjuna, you have all these experiences. Now you are in a place where you can surrender. That's why Krishna didn't say this in the second chapter when he starts talking. Because theoretically, he could have just said that in the second chapter and spared a lot of saliva. Yeah? He was talking for 700 verses just to say, and you don't need anything, just surrender. But he has to bring his disciple to that state where that surrender was possible. So Atma Kriya Yoga and the teachings of Guruji is going to purify us and bring us to that state where that surrender is possible. And that's the grace of the Gurus. And that's Atma Nivedana Bhakti. That's where the Atma and its relationship to the Paramatma that is revealed, that is clear. You guys still there? Still strong? It's not long anymore, I promise. Surrender. They have this beautiful catchphrase. I don't even remember where I read it. Let go and let God. Because if we are a full cup, nothing can be poured inside of that cup. We have to let go so the full water of divinity can be poured inside of this, whatever we are, this container. We have to let go of our wrong identities. We have to let go of our attachments. We have to let go of whatever dreams we believed that were important for us. And our aim should be the Lord. When I say we let go of our dreams, it doesn't mean we should not have aims in life. God just said, have aims in life. But don't be attached to anything that's not Narayana himself. Narayana, Krishna, is the only thing that exists worth to be attached to. So let go of everything that's not him, so that he can come and fill you. Nothing in this world is worthy to be attached to. Every attachment which is not Guru and God is only going to bring suffering. We already read Bhagavad Gita. We already read it in our Atma Kriya manual. For sure you're going to find this knowledge somewhere. Guruji Satsang is there. But we forget it. And even life itself has been beating us up and down and teaching us that. Every attachment means pain. That's what it means. Unless it's attachment to Narayana, Krishna and Sadguru. So we should live in the world, do whatever we have to do in the world, but our mind is focused only at the feet of God. That's the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. Is that what the techniques of Atma Kriya Yoga with the grace of Babaji and Guruji are bringing us to? With sincerity, that transformation happens. That's what Guruji wants us to do. That's exactly Guruji's words. That's the beauty of Atma Kriya Yoga. For those who practice sincerely, the transformation happens. And then Guruji said, but mostly people are scared of being transformed. Interesting. We are scared of letting go of things that just give us pain. Scared of the unknown. We think it's the unknown. Deep inside we know it somewhere. And with Kriya, we're going to know that we know. Because as Guruji said, Atma Kriya is based on that feeling. The feeling that awakens with the practice. Guruji said, your relationship to God is unique. He said, forge your relationship and let it bloom. A diamond and butterfly need different paths to become what they have to. If you are a diamond, you cannot compare yourself to a butterfly. And you're going to have completely different paths to realize in yourself. Guruji says, every saint have their own personal stories. Don't copy the relationship of everyone else with God. Don't copy the relationship. Your relationship is unique. That's what people say. There is as many relationships to God as there are souls in the universe. Every soul has a unique relationship to Sriman Narayana. And then Guruji says something very interesting in that satsang, 2020. He said, become an inspiration for others. Guruji says, become history. Guruji doesn't care about name and fame. He doesn't want you to care about name and fame. But he's reminding us that the legacy of the saints is actually what is remembered. Is actually what transforms people in a good way for eternity. Guruji says, transform into love. That is Kriya. Surrender. That's transforming into love. Surrender, Atma Nivedana Bhakti. Guruji said something also that I have to mention here from that talk. The world is forcing everybody to enter in the deep cave of oneself. But even that you see people living together this in 1 month, he was talking about the whole quarantine periods, when because of the COVID times, this and that. He said he saw people are living out together for 1 month and they are becoming aggressive towards each another, Guruji says. Like this, you don't see the goodness inside of you. You don't see the goodness in others. You don't perceive that God has given you what God has given you. The most beautiful things. And yet you are looking for the supreme elsewhere, not inside of yourself. Guruji says, you will not find him in the stone. You will not find him even in the temples. You will not find him in the churches, anywhere, if you have not found him inside of your heart. Narasimha is here, Mahalakshmi, most beautiful, Narayana, Radha Krishna. But if you don't perceive the Atma inside of your heart, you will not recognize Paramatma. If you don't feel him, how would you find him elsewhere? That's what Guruji said. So that's what Mahavata Babaji wants. That each one awakens and transforms. But for that to happen, you have to let go of your ego. That is Kriya. Being absorbed into the divine awareness at all time. That's the name of this talk. Meditation is absorption. Kriya is being absorbed into that divine awareness at all time. Being absorbed into this madness of love at all time. And that is what love is. And when we become mad about God, just like Mirabai, what happens? God gives himself to us. And to close, Guruji's beautiful reminder that love, it's never enough. That you cannot have enough surrender. Oh, I surrender enough for today. Now I'm going to keep going in my office. You have to constantly be trying, better trying, deeper trying. Surrender is a constant exercise. It's never enough. That's why Guruji says, that's the why we start with japa. The most wonderful kriya of all. Guruji is saying, japa is the most wonderful kriya of all. To awake what is inside of us, to give us that absorption. There's never enough japa. There is no enough japa. We have to do more than enough. Love cannot be enough. In love, you don't do only enough. You always do extra for the person you love. Even if you do every breath of yourself, in Japam, Guruji says, it's not enough. There's no enough. Just when was it? Monday, Guruji traveled to India, and after he finished his lunch, he was talking to some people, and I was around. You know how Guruji planned it was like 3 in the afternoon, 6 o'clock, he was leaving to the airport. He's leaving now for 5 months. He still didn't pack anything. Nothing was packed yet. And you know how he was planning his day until the time of leaving? He said, first I have to do my 1 hour of japa. So I'll do my hour of japa and then I pack. The packing was like squeezed between the japa and the leaving. But he didn't sacrifice his japa. Guruji has been super disciplined with his japa. But why Guruji does his japa with love? I will attempt to answer. I'm not knowing that. I'm going to just attempt to answer. Why Guruji is doing that much japa? Is that because Guruji needs it? I don't believe so. I think first because he really enjoys it. And I think that's already something that truly inspires us. When he takes the mala and repeats the name, he's one with the name. So the name is God himself. We have to learn to enjoy japa in that way, our kriyas in that way. That's the reason to do it. I love it so much. I have to do it. And also because he obviously wants us to have this as an example. So that's why I felt now compelled in sharing this here, because he said in a private moment, but I think it's something to be shared. Guruji doesn't miss his japa at all because he loves it. And if we don't miss it, we don't miss it because we love it or because we have to do it. So we have to come to the point where we practice with love. Only love. That's surrender. Only because we want to be in communion with the Supreme Lord. So, Guruji and Mahavtar Babaji want that such love and burning heart awakens inside of us, that we all transform into a saint, a yogi. And each one of us will have a unique way of shining and spreading that love. Jai Gurudev. Actually, anyone would like to say something or answer something? I think that's the time now. And I don't promise that I'll be able to answer, okay? If it's something that I cannot answer, I'll say, ask Revati or something, Swami.
Vou fazer em português, assim.
Okay, I translate here.
Como que nós podemos colocar mais... Quando alguém diz assim, faz o teu japa, ou o kriya principal, por exemplo, com mais amor, não é? Com mais devoção. O que é que muda em você, além da tua intenção, não é? Pronto, a intenção é importante. Mas faz do teu coração. Mas como é que eu acrescento isso?
Okay, she's asking, when somebody tells us to do the japa and the main kriya with more love, how do I do that? Apart from the intention, what is that? Well, that's, I don't know, maybe Roshan can add something to it. Roshan is the most experienced Kriya teacher, I believe, here in Bhakti Marga, apart from Guruji himself and Babaji in our center. I would say Guruji says, you can only love by loving. Yeah? You can only love by loving. You cannot you cannot say that there is something apart from loving that's going to increase your love, apart from the intention. But the thing that you can do, in my opinion, is the self-analysis. The self-analysis of the intention of why we are doing this. What is this love? Like, when you do your kriya and you sit and say, I'm going to try to do with love. I don't know with that, but I'm going to try to do with love. Guruji, please, I'm doing that for you. And then after the kriya, you sit in some minutes, and we're going to feel the technique. But that's the best part of the kriya is actually this seconds or minutes after the technique itself, isn't it? That's the meditation, the absorption itself. But then you analyze the sincerity of the intention. And I believe as we understand and go deeper in the sincerity of the intention, the feeling of love will naturally awake. So that's what I would do. Analyze the sincerity of the intention. Roshan? Yeah, I have to bring him in.
If we all experience this relationship with the divine in a unique way, there cannot be just one way to love. I think what you said about reflecting on the life of the saints is very important. If there is something in the life of a saint that really touches your heart, for me it is something as simple as that scene where Krishna is crying for his devotee, Sudama, where he's washing literally his feet with his own tears. And he asked him, why did you take so long? If you can hold an image like this, or the feet of the divine, if you can see the love in the eyes of your Ishtadev as you're sitting quietly after your main Kriya, I challenge anyone who says they can't grow in love. And we should take inspiration from everything that Guruji has given us. Even the name of Vittal makes that love grow inside of you. Of course, it is not part of Atma Kriya Yoga, but it's very complementary. And the truth is, the more we talk about this, the more we share about this, that in itself allows this love to grow, even in this moment. This is Sangha, and we are Bhaktas. So we have to talk about this Bhakti and then practice it.
That's actually a nice way of growing in love, is just to spending time with people who love God. Nice. Anybody else? Okay. Wait, let use the mic, please. Thank you.
From where comes the picture of Babaji, and from when the only picture of Babaji with you always?
Maybe the version that I have, it's not one. You correct me if you remember the story. The picture that we have is actually a real picture that a disciple of Babaji, Babaji manifested this picture and gave to a disciple of himself. That disciple met Guruji. Then they wanted this picture, but he didn't give the physical picture to Guruji. When Guruji met the disciple, he just agreed, like this Mahavata Babaji disciple. Guruji quite frequently go to some places in India to meet all the Mahavata Babaji disciples. But the picture actually appeared in the laptop of Swami Niruddha. The physical picture that he showed to Guruji, because they are both masters, he just said, okay, you're going to have the picture. And then the picture appeared in the laptop of Swami Niruddha. But that's actually, let's say, is a manifested picture of Mahavata Babaji through his disciples for Guruji. Yeah? Microphone.
Thank you very much. Well, I hope I'm not diverting too much from the topic of your speech. You talked about Yogananda, that lineage, the autobiography of a yogi. I think many of us first met Hinduism and the idea of a guru through that book and through Yogananda. I have always asked myself, I never well focused, what is exactly, I mean, Yogananda is focusing on Raja Yoga, while we as Hari Bhakta Sampradaya are focusing on Bhakti Yoga. What is the difference, if there is a difference, simply, in simple words, between the Raja Yoga concept and the Bhakti Yoga concept. I don't know if it's clear.
It is clear, and I will try to answer in a simple way, because I'm not going to speak from a deep understanding of Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is a very broad term, which englobes many things. You know, even if you go to different masters, you're going to see the Raja Yoga as being different things. But because before I met Guruji, I was actually following Paramahamsa Yogananda and practicing for many years and studying his lectures and reading a lot. So first thing is that Yogananda was not directly connecting his people, his disciples, to a lineage which is not the Babaji lineage. He was like any clear yoga or sampradaya lineage. He was not like his initiation lineage, things like this. He was not really going there, talking about sampradaya and about this sort of details. He would use Raja Yoga as, like he will say, the techniques, these different sort of techniques, they are inside of Raja Yoga, like as Raja Yoga as being the broad thing, yeah? And these are tools to the attainment of self-realization. Even the name of the organization that he created is Self-Realization Fellowship. But Yogananda was always talking about devotion. He's always talking about love for God. So I see, for me, clearly what he was doing as a beautiful preparation, beautiful steps for the mission of Guruji, actually, in many different aspects. And the difference, let's say, is that when we have Bhakti Yoga, and we have also the techniques of Atma Kriya, we practice the techniques, but our aim is not self-realization. Our aim is to attain that surrender through which the God will come to us. Our aim is to attain God himself. Yogananda was, from what I read, and I read a lot, he was never differentiating that. He was never going into that detail. What is the difference between self-realization and God realization? And Guruji goes in depth about it. So in that specific case, that's how I would differentiate. He's having the techniques to bring us to self-realization. Guruji wants us to do the techniques to cleanse ourselves so that we love God more, and then we attain God realization. I feel much more secure with Roshan sitting there while I have questions. Okay, I think we had enough. We do together Om Shanti Shanti. And then Om Shanti 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 Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari O. Prem se bolo Satguru Deva Shri Swami Vishwananda Mahaprabhu ki jai. Param Guru Mahavatar Babaji ki. Samasta Bhakta Mandali ki jai. It's funny because it's written, it's never enough. And I just said, okay, we have enough. So it's enough talking, but not enough love for the Lord. Jai Gurudev.